Hey, I'm Andy Aledorf, and this is Guitar World's complete guide to blues and blues rock. In this instructional DVD, I'll be teaching you all the essential rhythm guitar and lead guitar parts you're going to need to know to be able to play blues and blues rock, and we're going to be studying the guitar playing of all the greatest blues and blues rock guitar players, everybody from B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, and Elmore James in the blues genre, to all the blues rock greats like Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Johnny Winter, Jeff Beck, and a bunch of other guys. Let's get to it. All right, let's begin with the most basic blues chord progression, which is known as a 1-4-5, which you may have heard that term before. And what a 1-4-5 is, it means that the chords used in the blues chord progression come from the first, which is the 1, the 4th, and the 5th scale degrees from a major scale. So if we're in the key of E, you can use your open low E string. That represents the 1 or the tonic. It's the key the song is in, and that would be the 1 chord, which would be an E chord. For our examples right now, just showing you the chord progression, I'm just going to use straight major chord forms. Okay, so the 1 chord would be E. To get the 4 chord, you count up to the 4th scale degree in the E major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th scale degree in the key of E is an A note, so the 4 chord would be an A chord. So the 1 chord is E in the key of E, and the 4 chord is A. If we count up to the 5th scale degree in the E major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th scale degree is B, so a B chord is known as the 5 chord. So in the key of E, a standard E blues, which is a 1-4-5 chord progression, the chords would be E, which is the 1, A is the 4, and B is the 5. All right, now let's move to the key of A, just for comparison's sake. If A was the 1 or the tonic, or the key that we're in, then the 1 chord would be an A chord. You count up to the 4th scale degree in the A major scale. That would be a D note. So D would be the 4 chord in the key of A. So A in the key of A is the 1 chord, and D is the 4 chord. If we count up to the 5th scale degree in an A major scale, the 5th scale degree is an E note, so the 5 chord would be an E chord. Again, we're using all major chords. This time I'm playing bar chords. So in the key of A, a 1-4-5 blues progression comprises the chords A, which is the 1, D is the 4, and E is the 5. Okay, the most commonly used blues form is known as a 12-bar blues. As we just said, the most common chord progression is a 1-4-5. The most common blues form is a 12-bar blues. So as the name implies, it's 12 bars long. All right, let's go back to the key of E to look at a 12-bar blues form. One way that the 12-bar blues form is played generally is you would play 1 bar of E. So if our tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4, and those are 4 downbeats per bar in 4/4 time, 1 bar of E would sound like this. That's followed by 1 bar of A, back to 2 bars of E. Okay, so that covered the first 4 bars of the 12-bar progression. Then we have 2 bars of A, and then 2 more of E. first 8 bars of the blues, typical 12-bar blues progression. Then we have 1 bar of the 5-chord B, 1 bar of the 4-chord A, and then 1 bar of the 1-chord E, and then it goes back to the 5-chord for the last bar in the 12-bar progression. And then the form repeats, you start from 1 again. Now that form where we played 1 bar of E, or 1 bar of the 1 chord, and then immediately went to 1 bar of the 4 chord, is known as a quick 4, because you go immediately to the 4 chord from the 1 chord. In many 12-bar blues forms, instead of doing the quick 4, you stay on the 1 chord for the first 4 bars. Now you're probably saying, that didn't sound like a blues. And one of the reasons is because I was just strumming all downbeats, quarter notes, and that's not the rhythm generally used in blues styles. There are different rhythms that are used, and we're going to get into that. One of the most common is known as a shuffle. And a shuffle is based on a triplet rhythm where there are 3 beats implied for each of the 4 beats in 4/4 time. What I mean by that is for each downbeat, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 3 beats implied for each one of those beats. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So those 3 beats that fall within 1 quarter note beat are known as 8th note triplets. So there are 3 8th note triplets on each beat. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. If you were to strum each of those in time, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, that's still not a shuffle. What a shuffle is you take those first 2 8th notes on each beat, because there are 3. You take the first 2 and you join them together. So instead of it going 1, 2, 3 with 3 accents, the first 2 are joined together to make 1 longer accent, followed by the shorter accent of the final 8th note triplet of the 3. So instead of it sounding like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it sounds like this. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, like that. So it's bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bump. Those first 2 bump, bump become bum, followed by the last 8th note. So when you play in that rhythm, that sounds like this. Generally speaking, in most blues songs, you wouldn't just strum the same chord over and over again like that. One of the techniques that's used very commonly is something known as root 5th, root 6th. What this means is for each of the chords, each of the 3 chords in a 1-4-5 progression, you play 2-note chords that are made up of either the root note and the 5th, or the root note and the 6th. So for the 1 chord E, if we play the root and the 5th together, generally known as E5, you get this. So in the key of E, E is the tonic, the root note, and the 5th is B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You play E and B together, that's a root 5th 2-note chord. You're going to alternate that against a root 6th 2-note chord, so you go up to the 6th scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, using an E major scale. So that would be the tonic E against a C sharp, which is the sixth in the key of E. So if you alternate those eighth note triplets in the shuffle rhythm like we played, it sounds like this. So you have root fifth for 2 hits, then root sixth for 2 hits. And you go back and forth. Now you're going to do the same thing for the next chord in the progression, the 4 chord, which is A. So you play the root note of that chord, which is A, and then a fifth up from A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a root fifth 2-note chord for A5. And you're going to alternate that against a root sixth chord for A6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Root note of A against the sixth scale degree. In this case, it's F sharp. So you have fifth alternated with root sixth, and that sounds like this. Then you can do the same thing for the 5 chord, which is B. So you're going to play root fifth on the 5 chord. B is the root note. Go up to the fifth scale degree. For B, here's your root and your fifth. And then you do your root sixth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixth scale degree in the key of B would be G sharp. So root fifth, B, F sharp, root sixth, B, G sharp. And you likewise alternate between root fifth and root sixth on the 5 chord, B5 and B6. All right, now let's take these root fifth, root sixth chord forms and plug them into a 12-bar blues, 1-4-5 blues progression in the key of E. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, All right, there's a little twist there at the end. I didn't switch back to the 5 chord immediately from the 1 chord. When we came down, I stayed on the 1 chord a little longer because that's typically how it is. You'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's just the normal rhythmic cadence that you hear at the end of a 12-bar blues form before it repeats again. All right, now let's expand on this little moving voicing, and we're going to go from root fifth and root sixth to incorporate root flat seventh. All right, we had root fifth and root sixth. Now we're going to incorporate 1 fret higher on the A string to have root flat 7, and we're going to alternate between those 3 now, going like that. We're going to do the same thing for A, just by moving 1 fret higher on the D string. Now when you get to the 5 chord B, that's kind of a really big stretch. So it's not used as often in that position, unless you want to fret this like this. But still, it's not that common. So for this example, I'm just going to use root fifth, root sixth for the 5 chord, but use root fifth, root sixth, and root flat 7 for all the other chords. All right, here's the example. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now let's take this concept and move it up to the key of A using all fretted chords, also known as mobile chord forms, because since all the notes are fretted, you could play them anywhere up and down the neck, and they'll be appropriate for whatever key, whatever position that you're in. All right, in the key of A is the 1 chord, and we have root 5th, root 6th, and root flat 7th is played like that. It's a big stretch with the pinky. Okay? The 4 chord is D. That's root 5th, root 6th, root flat 7th, and then the 5 chord is E. Okay, so here's the chord progression played in the key of A using these chord forms. 1, 2, 3, and... All right, now let's elaborate a little bit on our blues rhythm guitar patterns. And we're going to build again on what we have so far by utilizing something known as walking bass figures. And what a walking bass figure is you play a more complex line on the lower strings that helps to drive the song along. So instead of just going, we're going to play a little riff, a little melodic figure really, and the same melodic figure is then going to be applied to each of the 3 chords in the 1-4-5 chord progression. Okay, so our little walking melodic pattern that we're going to play is we're going to utilize the root note for each chord, the flat third, so in E that would be G, and the major third, G sharp, the 5th, the flat 7th, and the 6th. And the sequence of notes sounds like this. And if you started off with a root 5th accent, you get, or playing against the open E each time. It's another way to do it. When we go to the 4 chord A, we get, when we go to the 5 chord B, we have to change our hand position because it's too difficult, it's impractical to go. So instead of doing that, we're going to go and change hand positions. All right, along with this different pattern we're doing with the left hand, the right hand is important too because I'm utilizing a technique known as palm muting. That entails laying the edge of the palm across the saddles where the strings go across the bridge, and that makes a percussive sound, a muffled percussive sound, which gives a rhythm part a little more drive. Instead of it sounding like with all the strings ringing, it gives it a heavier, more bassy sound and more drive to the rhythm. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, and... All right, I threw in another little thing there at the end of the progression, which sounds a little more interesting. And what that was, when I came down from the 5 chord, back to the 1, right there, instead of just going straight to the 5 chord, I played a little walking figure up to the 5 chord. And that little riff you hear in all different kind of blues songs, all different tempos, fast, slow. It's just a staple of the blues guitar sound. Okay, let's look at a technique which is known as a turnaround. The turnaround is a part of the chord progression that usually falls in the last 2 bars of a 12-bar blues progression, so that would be bars 11 and 12. If we're in the key of E, that means when you come down from bar 9 is the 5 chord, bar 10 is back on the 4 chord, and then that turnaround comes right here on bars 11 and 12. And then it takes you back to the first bar. So here's our first turnaround in the key of E, and that's going to be played like this. 1, 2, 3, and... Here it is slowly on the 5 chord, on the 4 chord, and now here's the turnaround, those last 2 bars of a 12-bar blues. 1, 2, 3. All right, this turnaround we started when we went to the 5 chord with a little walking up figure. Using that B7 voicing like we did before. And that alternating between using the pick and picking with the fingers. And now for the turnaround, instead of doing what we did the first time, we went alternating between those 2 notes. Now we're going to use the pick those first 2 notes, and then finger pick to bring the open high E string in. Same little walk-up pattern at the end there. Back to E. All right, now that you're clear about where those turnarounds fall, I'm just going to play the turnaround itself, which means the last 2 bars of the 12-bar progression, still in E. 1, 2, 3, and... Okay, this time, I played a little more complex pattern with the right hand. I started by picking the open low E, then I picked the 5th and 3rd strings simultaneously, then picked the 5th and the open E. So it sounds like... And then I just moved up chromatically. And then... Okay, the first blues guitarist we're going to focus on for looking at blues guitar soloing is the great T-Bone Walker. He was one of the first electric blues guitar players and was a huge influence on B.B. King and just about any other blues guitar player and rock guitar player. Guys like Johnny Winter and Jimi Hendrix very influenced by T-Bone Walker. And T-Bone is most well known for having written Call It Stormy Monday, a slow blues in the key of G. He played a lot of songs in the key of G. And in this song, T-Bone plays some very complicated riffs, single note riffs, articulated with perfect alternate picking, and he just had tremendous technique. And in this song, many of the licks are based on the G Mixolydian mode, which is the mode that goes best with a dominant sound, a 7th chord, flat 7th, G7 type sound. So G Mixolydian in this key. So here's the scale. G Mixolydian. You have the root note G, 2nd A, 3rd B, 4th is C, 5th is D, 6th is E, flat 7th is is F, and then the root note again. And then that repeats an octave higher. Now T-Bone wouldn't use that scale in its entirety. He would do other things that have to do with just sort of the way notes fall on the guitar. So he would end up with these hybrid scales that were a combination of G Mixolydian with G minor pentatonic. Here's G minor pentatonic, made up of the root note, flat third, B flat, fourth, fifth, and flat seventh. So you see it has many of the same notes as G Mixolydian, but it introduces that minor third. So T-Bone would play licks that cross the lines between both those scales by doing things that fall comfortably on the guitar, like also incorporating that major third. T-Bone also liked to use string bending. All right, here's an example of playing a guitar solo in the style of T-Bone Walker. All right, let's go over all the licks in this solo. It starts with this cool. So I'm playing the notes of a G7 arpeggio, and then there's a quick hammer pull-off. So I'm hammering, pulling off, and then doing it again. Then I move that over to C, back to G, then I play. So this is based on G minor pentatonic. And then right here, I go into these 16th note triplets on each of the eighth notes in an eighth note triplet. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those are eighth note triplets, but we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 notes played on each of those eighth notes. So we have one more time, that whole bar, that's bar number 5. Then I slide up. C. Same lick back in G when you get to the 1 chord. Hold that for 2 beats. And then back to 16th note triplets. So that whole lick is. Then some interesting bending here to move into the 5 chord. And then over the 4 chord. And this is where T-Bone superimposes a different kind of rhythm. Over the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, he's playing 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And he was great at superimposing different rhythms. One more time. And this is like a little diminished voicing. It's like A flat 9 to G9. Okay, let's move on to our next blues guitar great, B.B. King. B.B. King is known for his economical style and playing great melodies and stinging tone, great attack. And one of his signature tunes is Every Day I Have the Blues, a moderately up-tempo swing. So here's an example played in that style. All right, let's go over these B.B.-like licks. Played in the key of B flat, and it's a dominant. So you could say the licks reference B flat mixolydian, as well as B flat minor pentatonic. So the solo begins in the style closely associated with B.B. by playing a lick. A technique B.B. likes to use a lot, and Eric Clapton uses it as well, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. We come in on the upbeat of 2. 1, 2. Play a B flat root note on the high E string, followed by another B flat, which you slide into. So this is a great B.B. King lick. Then I played a minor pentatonic lick. From there, I moved into this lick. Now this position here, this is known as the B.B. box because he plays so many licks in this position. Bending from different places. And that's why it's called the B.B. box. In this particular example, I went and then, and this here makes reference to the 4 chord E flat. And it works because this note, G, is the major third of E flat. And this note, D flat, is the flat 7 of E flat. So there's your dominant chord on the 4 chord E flat. And then went back to, and then this, another great B.B. King type lick. You play the minor third, bend it up slightly so you bring in the sound of that major third, that flavor. Then I play root note B flat, pull off, and slide down. Great lick. Then here, and this is where he gets into his Charlie Christian, Django Reinhardt kind of jazzy sound. Mixing minor and major, this is a major third, a D note, then a minor third. Now here, Because this blues has a 2-5 at this point, goes to C minor to F. This lick, that's just a C minor arpeggio with the notes. So C minor 7th arpeggio. That's why that lick sounds so cool over that chord. So we came out of and then so this quick hammer pull-off lick, slide up, so minor pentatonic B flat, and there's the 5 chord. Then the phrase ends with this chordal stab, another great BB technique, and this is B flat 6 with notes fretted just on the top 3 strings. Certainly one of the greatest blues guitar players ever, Mr. Albert King. Albert King played in a very unusual way. He played lefty, but he took a guitar strung for a right-handed guitar player and flipped it upside down and played in this way so that the skinny strings were on top, fat strings on the bottom. Highly unusual. And that enabled him to pull down to bend the strings, and he got some very expressive bends playing in that manner. He also liked to use over bends, very large bends, meaning bending the string a step and a half, 2 steps. And one of the things he did that facilitated that was he would tune the guitar down a step and a half. So I'm going to replicate playing in his style on a slow blues played in the key of G, which is the key he liked. He used it on Livewire Blues Power, that album, the song Blues Power. I'm going to replicate his playing by using expressive overbends and snapping the strings with the right hand, the picking hand. Here's the example. All right, this solo is played in the key of G. Many of the licks come from the G minor pentatonic scale, the notes G, B flat, C, D, and F. Played, of course, higher on the neck. And this solo is filled with all kinds of signature Albert King licks. I started with, so hitting that 5th to the root note and hitting a strong vibrato. Now I'm using a pick and hitting the strings very hard to get an expressive sound. Albert played with his fingers. And if you do that, it will sound more Albert-like. Snapping the strings as much as you can, pulling up on the string, or hitting it hard with the thumb. You get a real screaming sound that way. Okay, then in bar 2, I went to ending in bar 3 there. So this right here, another very expressive thing with bending, where I bend the 4th up to the 5th, but then I bend the major third up a half step to the fourth. Now, I'm replicating Albert's style here. Albert would do all this entire phrase with string bending. All on one string like that. So he would go. But you can also play it here. Okay, then in the next bar, bar 4, I played. Now this lick, real classic Albert King style lick. One more time. Fret, 7th. Use the index finger to bend and release. And you slide down. And then that there, you're on the G string, bend up a whole step, and then pick that high E string, jumping strings, skipping over the B string. Very Albert-like. And that lick too, you hear that all over all kinds of Albert King recordings. Okay, now in the next bar, bar 6, I win. So, ending with that half step bend up and vibrato. Again, Albert would play that by going. He would do all that on the B string. Actually, he did it on the high A string. I'm doing it on the B to replicate playing all those notes on one string. And now this lick, another classic Albert King, from the 5th to the 6th, then root back to the 5th. So it has a major sound for a second, but then the minor sound follows it, so it's balanced. So just expressive bends from the flat 7 to the root, and the 4th to the 5th. All right, this next lick is a little awkward to play on a normal guitar, because you got to get right to the bends as you change positions. And we're doing different levels of bends. We're doing pre-bends of a whole step, and released, and then bent a step and a half, full, and then 2 steps. So you got every variety of bend there on the 11th fret B flat note. The little half step bends at the end. That expressive slide down 11th fret, 10th fret, and then classic Albert King lick. Jumping strings again there, 3rd string to 1st string. Ending with that little 5th and flat 7th, which is vibrato. All right, we did some B.B. King and Albert King. Now we have to, of course, get to the other King, Freddie King. And Freddie King is certainly one of the greatest blues musicians, guitarists, singers, writers that ever lived. And he's an interesting guy. He was a little younger than those guys, and his early records are very influenced by B.B. King. But then later, in the early 70s, his music sounded very modern for the time, and he did all these records for Shelter, produced by Leon Russell, and all those records are great too. So one of the things about Freddie King is he wrote a lot of classic instrumental tunes that became big hits. Songs like The Stumble and Hideaway, San Jose, Sensation. So this next example is going to be played in the style of Freddie King's Sensation. All right, the majority of this solo is based on A minor pentatonic, played in the key of A. And I begin. So you're bending up, barring across the top two with the index finger. Then I do this reverse rake. Because that's something you hear in Sensation, you hear it in a bunch of Freddie King tunes. So I'm just lightly resting the ring finger on the top three strings without pressing them down to the fretboard. And then I'm dragging the pick across. And I don't fret till I get to the pick hand, gets to the D string, and then that's where I press down on the 7th fret. And then I fret 2 strings at a time, barring across the G and the B at the 7th fret. Do a slight half-step bend and release. And then 5th fret on the same 2 strings. And then you repeat that. Then I went this little low lick. That's over D. So that F sharp, major third of D. That's one reason it sounds nice. And you can see with the right hand, I'm trying to get a little edge of the thumb into the pick attack, just to make it sound sharper, a little nastier. And then I shoot up. So, this is still minor pentatonic in A. You push that minor third up a little so it sounds major. And then I'm alternating different notes on the high string against that minor third that sounds like a major third. Then on the 5 chord E, I'm playing a lick that does the same thing we just did in A. Flat 7, 6, 5 over E. Same thing on the 4 chord D. Intervallically, those are the flat 7, 6, and 5 of D. And then we go back down to A minor pentatonic when the progression returns to the 1. One more time. So this is kind of cool. Use your pinky to roll over from the B to the G string. You get those little expressive bends into the lick as well. All right, now let's take a look at another element of blues guitar, and that is known as slide guitar. Oftentimes, slide guitar players in the blues will tune their guitar to an open tuning, which means that when you hit all the strings without fretting anything, it makes the sound of a chord, usually a major chord. One of the most common tunings is open E, which is how this guitar is tuned now. So what you're doing is you're replicating a normal E chord, cowboy chord, by tuning the A string up a whole step from A to B, so you don't have to fret to get a B note. The D string is tuned up a whole step to get an E note without having to fret, and the G string is tuned a half step up to get a G sharp, so you don't have to fret the note. So the other three strings, the sixth string, second string, and first string, are left alone. They're tuned normally, E, B, E, as they usually are. But now the A string sounds a B note, so here's the open low E. A string now sounds a B. D string sounds an E. G string sounds G sharp. The B string is B, normal. High E string is E, normal. So again, top to bottom, you've got E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. You strum across all the strings, that's an E chord. If you were to bar across all the strings, whatever note is played on the low E or high E string, that's the name of the chord. So that would be a G chord, that's an A chord, that's a B chord, that's a D chord. Very often slide guitar players will forego using a pick, or they will use finger picks, so they will be able to pick with more than one finger at a time, as opposed to holding a pick, holding a plectrum. One of the reasons for that is you can damp, meaning block other strings with other fingers or other parts of your right hand, so you'll only get the strings to ring that you want. So if I played I just want the B string to ring, and if you look at my right hand, you can see I'm blocking the G string and the high E string with these fingers while the B string is ringing. And then as I move over, that little bridge with the right hand moves over to the other strings that I don't want to sound, and the string in the middle is the one that rings. Another important thing are the notes to use when soloing. When you're in E, one of the things you can do that's very simple is just play the 12th and 10th frets on all of the strings, and then there's one additional note, the 9th fret on the A string. So going down, you would play and then typically licks and you can go up to the 15th fret on the top three strings. And of course, find other notes. One of the greatest slide guitar players in blues is Elmore James, who's also an incredible singer. And this next musical example is going to be played in his style. All right, let's take a look at this lick. It starts in the typical classic dust my broom kind of a way. So I'm vibratoing, sliding the slide back and forth up the length of the string, allowing those top two strings to ring at the same time. And with my right hand, I'm picking thumb on the B string, ring finger on the high E. And behind the slide, this is also very important, I'm very lightly resting that finger on the strings to prevent unwanted overtones from ringing behind the slide. Sometimes you don't have to do that much if you really have your right hand muting together. It's good to do a little bit of both. Then that repeats. And you can see I kind of rest my fingertips on the higher strings as the lick moves across to the lower string. And then on the 4 chord, then on the 5 chord, and you can see you have this contrary motion. If you go up on one string, you go back on the other string. And that makes an interesting sound to have the notes moving in different directions. Back on the 4. Back on the 1. And then I hit that B note for the 5 chord. And you should concentrate on staying above the fret wire for all your notes that you stay on so that they'll be intonated properly. Okay, let's begin this look at blues rock guitar with one of the greatest, most influential blues rock guitarists of all, Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton started with the Yardbirds and recorded some incredibly influential tracks with them, like I Ain't Got You and Got to Hurry, and went on to the Blues Breakers and the whole Clapton is God period, and followed that up with Cream, which is also incredible. In this next musical example, I'll be playing some blues riffs in the key of A, and Eric Clapton's biggest influences are probably B.B. King and Buddy Guy. So after I play the example, I'll go through all the licks and show you how he does what he does. All right, the majority of this solo is based on the A minor pentatonic scale. And I'm utilizing an extended position to emulate Eric's playing. And I begin like this, by hammering from the 8th fret to the 10th fret, index finger to ring finger, and vibratoing. And that's a very Clapton-y thing to do. And then that minor third, the C, give it a little bend to bring in the flavor of a major third. Gives it a much more vocal-like quality. Then bar 3 ends. That's a bend, release, and pull off. Then bar 5. And this here, you may remember from the B.B. King example, that's a B.B. lick. Pick 8th fret, fret it with the index finger, fret with the ring and pull off, and then pull your index finger down from the 8th to the 5th fret. Now this next thing is extremely Clapton-y. So it's still really minor pentatonic in A, but utilizing that major third at the beginning of the lick, so you hear the sound of an A major triad. This is the full triad. So again, it's that bittersweet balance between the minor third and the major third. Great blues sound. One more time. One more time, that kind of bend. Okay, then moving into bar 10 over the 5 chord E. So doing bends of different degrees. This is where a little bit of the Albert King vibe comes in. So that combination of pull-offs, slides, and hammers and pulls. Then I brought this lick in again. Same lick as before. And that's another Clapton-y thing to do, to lay your index finger across the minor third and the fifth and pull up to get a bluesier sound. And it ends with this hammer-on minor to major third while holding the fifth on the B string. No look at blues rock guitar greats would be complete without a look at the playing of the great Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was a huge fan of blues and learned as many blues licks as he could from all the great blues guitar players. His most strongest influences were probably Albert King and Buddy Guy, but he was big on T-Bone Walker, and Clapton actually influenced him too. Jimmy wrote one standard 12-bar blues in his career, Red House, and in this next example I'm going to be playing over that type of a blues played in the key of B. Jimmy tuned down a half step, and I'm going to play just in standard tuning, and so this will be in the style of Jimi Hendrix, and afterwards we'll analyze the licks. Okay, the majority of this solo that's played in the style of Jimi Hendrix on Red House, is based on B minor pentatonic, or the B blues scale. Remember that the blues scale brings that flat 5 back in, so in the key of B that would be a F note. And I begin the solo with this phrase. Then I brought in this classic Hendrix technique of where you bend one string and catch another string under it. So in this case, I'm bending the B string at the 10th fret up a whole step, and I catch the G string under the end of the fingertip. And you get the sound of the G string bent a half step when you bend the B string up a whole step. So again, B string's bent up a whole step, and I catch the G string underneath. The same fingertip. And then at the end of bar 2 here, I started playing a fast lick based on 16th note triplets. And it's a cyclical sounding lick because you get the, combined with the, but instead of just playing it straight like over and over again, I like to mix it up a little more so it's a more interesting sounding improvised melody. So one more time. End with a fast pull off 9th fret to 7th on the D and the A string. And as I was saying with Clapton, a big part of blues phrasing is to go back and forth between minor pentatonic and major pentatonic. So here in the key of B, that first part of it, B major pentatonic, but then here, going back to minor pentatonic. So you get the balance between the two and they work really well together. This is a fast hammer pull-off. Go back to 7th position. And a repeated lick again here with a bend on the 10th fret of the B string. That's the kind of lick you could just work on. This fast 16th note triplet lick falls across the last 2 beats of bar 5. So it's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 falling in the space of 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Then moving into bar 6. Where I'm doing a hammer pull-off lick on each string between the 7th and the 9th fret. So after the initial, and then here. So I just mixed it up a little at the end of the lick to make it sound more interesting. Now in bar 7, back on the 1 chord, back on B. So this is just all B blues scale. Did a trill on the bottom string here between the 5th and 7th fret. Then over the 5 chord, F sharp. That's an interesting scale. It's sort of like major pentatonic. 5 chord, F sharp, major pentatonic. But these last 3 notes, bringing in the flat 7 of F sharp and E note, so it strengthens that dominant sound. And ends on a major third, so you have that F sharp 7 sound. Then I move back to B major pentatonic over the 4 chord that's falling in bar 10. And at the end there, I brought in a 2-step bend a la Albert King. It's bar 11 now, back on the 1 chord. Very Hendrixy, flashy little thing there. Again, repeating that pull-off lick on the top strings just to get a rolling effect and make the melodic shape more interesting and more unpredictable. And ending on this F sharp 7 voicing on the 5th, 3rd, and 1st strings. All right, now let's look at the playing of another of the greatest blues rock guitar players that ever lived, Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck's first solo album, Truth, is an incredible record just filled with some of the most aggressive blues rock, where he pulled from the influences of Buddy Guy and B.B. King, just like Johnny Winter and Clapton and Hendrix, but did it in his own very distinct way. So now I'm going to play over a track that's along the lines to Rock My Plimsoll. All right, just like all the other guitar players, there's this alternating between minor pentatonic and major pentatonic. In the key of B, B minor pentatonic, or an extended position. And then major pentatonic, B major pentatonic. And I begin the solo, which is a B major pentatonic lick, bending the 14th fret of the B string up a whole step while holding the 14th fret of the high E, and applying vibrato. And I do a quick hammer pull-off, 12, 14, 12 on the B string. Did a two-step bend, slid down, and then just an expressive for a little bit of that Jeff Beck attitude. Then going into bar 5 in the 4-chord, E7. Just barring across the 7th fret of the G and B string. Bending up, a half step and releasing, and then vibratoing. And that's just straight minor pentatonic. So that bend, release, and pull off. Okay, in bar 6, still over the 4-chord. Then I brought in this repeated lick. I'm barring across the top 2 strings at the 7th fret. I do a pull-off, 10-7 on the B string, land on 9th fret of the G string, and I play that 6 times. So you got, and then, but truthfully, this is the kind of thing that you can kind of speed up and slow down while using it to get kind of a crammed or stretching and compressing time kind of an effect when you play a repeated lick like this. So you could go faster and slower. And that gives it some of that Jeff Beck kind of, surprise quality to it. Then I move back into B major pentatonic, go into the 5-chord F sharp 7. Using triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sure you pick both strings. And then in bar 10, over the 4-chord E, moving into bar 11, a unison bend lick, where you're fretting a note on the B string and then matching that pitch by bending up a whole step on the G string. But then the twist is to end on the major 3rd. And then, of course, if it's a Jeff Beck solo, you have to end with a pick slide. One of the greatest blues rock guitar players ever is certainly Duane Allman from the Allman Brothers. And Duane, aside from being just a great guitar player playing standard tuning with his fingers, was one of the greatest slide guitar players ever. And when Duane played slide, he would play in open E tuning most of the time. There's a couple of examples where he played in standard tuning, like Dreams, but generally speaking, he played in open E tuning. One of the most well-known Allman Brothers cover tunes, the old Blind Willie McTell Statesboro Blues. Statesboro Blues is in the key of D, but Duane still used a guitar in open E tuning. So instead of playing up at the 12th fret like we did for Elmore James' Dust My Broom, generally when you play slide, whatever you're tuning is usually the key of the song to make things easy. But in this case, he's tuned to open E, but the song's in D. So many of the riffs center around the 10th fret instead of the 12th fret, which would be E. So that's an E chord. That's normal for E, but Statesboro's in D, so you play 2 frets lower. And it's the same collection of notes on the fretboard, but 2 frets lower to play in D. So you play 10th fret, 8th, 10th, 8th, 10th, 8th, 10th, 8th, 10th, 8th, 7th, and 10th. And then, of course, you can move up 3 frets higher. In this case, that would be the 13th. So this next example will be played in the style of Duane Allman and Statesboro Blues. All right, the solo begins on the root note, a high D, and we're going to pull back. Very common Duane Allman lick there. And don't forget the contrary motion going, sliding up and sliding down from one note to the next to make the lick sound interesting, and also to make it sound more vocal-like. So you start by playing right on the note, pulling back, but the next time you play a D, you slide up to it so it sounds different. Same thing there, I'm going to slide up to the 13th fret, but then pull back to the 8th fret. Also, with this hand, I'm laying my thumb across the bottom 5 strings when I have a note on the high E string ringing, so that you only hear that one note on top ringing purely. And when I get to that note, I do my best to block the strings around the D string, so just the D string will ring. So my thumb is resting on the bottom 2, and then my middle and ring fingers are holding the G and the B string. Then I go. So to get a minor third sound, which is an F note, I'm going to slide up the D string, which also gives a different quality because it's a wound string as opposed to playing on an unwound string. And all the same principles still apply of blocking around the string that's ringing with your right hand as much as possible. And I use my ring finger to pick a lot, but I know that Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks, they use their index finger a lot. If you watch them, you can see their finger coming down. I prefer to use my ring finger. Okay, so we had Okay, now in bar 9, I played this lick. That's kind of a cool Dwayne lick where you're pulling back from the root note on the 10th fret of the D to the flat 7. And the repeated sound of that note pulling back gives the lick its unique quality. So in bar 9, bar 10, there's also the pivoting thing where you're picking between the G and the B string and changing the note on the B string. So let's say you wanted to utilize the 8th fret, 10th fret, 13th fret. You can use all 3 notes pivoting against somewhere on the G string. It doesn't really matter because you don't hear that pitch. But it gives the rhythmic effect that's cool. Bar 11. Into bar 12. Landing on that 5th. And that's the end of the chord progression. Another of the truly great blues rock guitar players is Johnny Winter, the albino from Texas. I got a Firebird just because it's him that we're covering. So you got to use a Firebird. And Johnny also had all these blues guitar influences like B.B. King and Albert King, but big T-Bone influence. And Johnny's playing is earmarked by very precise picking and fast runs and clearly executed notes. Great technique. So I'm going to play a solo right now in the key of A, based around the A minor pentatonic scale and the A blues scale, sort of in the style of rock and roll hoochie coo. All right, I began this solo with a kind of typical rock and roll, kind of a Chuck Berry-ish kind of lick, because Chuck Berry was a big influence on Johnny Winter too. So I'm barring across the top 2 strings at the 5th fret, alternated against 7th fret of the D string. And then, so you bar across the 7th fret of the G and B. Then the 5th fret, same strings, hammer up with the middle finger onto the 6th fret of the G string. So one more time. 2 bars, and then I move into so this is playing pairs of notes on the top 2 strings, and again, this is a very Chuck Berry kind of a lick. So 13th and 12th, pull back to 12th and 10th, pull back to 10th and 8th, pull back to 8th and 7th, pull back to 7th and 5th, pull back to 5th and 3rd, pull back to 3rd and 2nd, pull back to 1st, and open. And with the right hand, pick, 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 slide, pick, 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 slide. And I did a unison bend on the G and B string. On the flat 7, which is a G note in the key of A. Very Johnny Winter-like. And then pull back. And here then you get into that A minor pentatonic sound. this here. Classic Johnny Winter lick, where you play the minor third, pull off from the root to the flat seventh, and land on the fifth. Followed by another classic Johnny riff. And make sure that after you pick the G note that's unbent, you do a pre-bend or ghost bend by pushing the note up first before you strike it. So with the vibrato, as opposed to hearing the note go up. Then the solo ends with a fast riff based on 16th note triplets. All right, now let's get into the bad boys of boogie. That little old band from Texas they call ZZ Top. Billy Gibbons, another great blues rock guitar player, and he really loved John Lee Hooker and boogie type blues, and you hear that on their song LaGrange. And in this example, I'm going to show one of the techniques that Billy Gibbons likes to use, and he got great sounds out of his guitar, which he called Pearly Gates, his 58 Les Paul, or 59. And that is the utilization of pinch harmonics. So I'm going to play a solo now in the style of Billy Gibbons and use a lot of pinch harmonics, artificial harmonics, that are sounded by getting some of the flesh into the pick attack. And after the solo, I'll show you how to do it. 1, 2, 3. All right, this is a very simple solo based on A minor pentatonic, all the licks. With a little chromaticism in there too. But the big thing about Billy's technique that I'm trying to show here is the artificial pinch harmonics. So when I bend, for example, the 7th fret of the G string, instead of just picking it normally, I bear down on the pick so I get the thumb right at the edge of the pick. And that little bit of flesh in there touches the string. And what happens is those are called nodal points, where there are different notes in what's known as the overtone series, because you're dividing the length of the string between the saddle and the fretted position. So there are different harmonics that reside along the string in all those different positions, and when you pick and change where along the length of the string you pick in that way, then you're going to get different notes that come out, and it sounds cool. Some people call them whistlers because it's such a high pitch. And you'll hear Van Halen do this too. He does it on Hot for Teacher and Joe Satriani, and it's a very popular technique, and it's real cool, and especially in metal these days. Great technique. All right, let's wrap things up with a look at the guitar playing of the great Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray was from the next generation of guitar players following most of the guys we're talking about, like Hendrix and Beck and Clapton. But he was a very emotional player, very powerful player, and pulled from all those same influences, but kept that Texas blues Lightning Hopkins thing in there with two-note figures and lots of sliding. This next solo is going to be played in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan soloing on Pride and Joy. All right, I began this solo that's played in Stevie Ray Vaughan style with double stops. Now we're in the key of E, and most of the licks, or many of the licks, are based on E minor pentatonic, down in open position, or 12. But he likes to do these little double stop things that I mentioned. They kind of have their basis in Lightning Hopkins and traditional Texas blues and Chicago blues and acoustic blues. So I begin with that figure. I got a major third and the fifth, and I'm using all upstrokes and plus getting the open high E string in there too. Which you hear in a lot of acoustic players, more so than electric players, but Stevie was great at bringing that into a high-powered blues rock sound. And I slide back into E minor pentatonic in 12 position. Into. So repeatedly bending that 15th fret of the B up a whole step. Then over the 4 chord, stab that note hard and vibrato it. And the other thing is, the rhythms have been all so solid and clear. 8th note triplets, all 8th note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But then you jump out of that rhythmic situation and play a faster phrase, and it makes a nice transition and balance. Now for that lick, I'm bending that G note up a whole step, but I'm also picking with the finger, a la Albert King, which makes the note much more expressive sounding and literally jump out of the guitar. And where you pick it and how you pick it actually makes the different notes and different timbres come out. Then I zip down to open position. For real traditional blues, kind of alternate picking between the 5th, 3rd, and 1st strings. Then back to using double stops with upstrokes. And then it ends with the C9 to B9. Unison E's on the top 2 strings.